Well, all right, and good morning to you. Thank you very much for tuning into the program. It is Friday, December the 12th. This is Open Line. I'm your host, Paddy Daly, and Greg Smith back producing the Come On With It edition of the program. So, if you're in the St. John's metro region, the number to dial to get in the queue and on the air is 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 8626. So as I was reminded via email, it was a funny thing that when we talk about a bit of sports off the top of the show, didn't mention who was Canada's Athlete of the Year. You're absolutely right. I read the story, went in one ear, out the other, or in one eyeball, out the other. So it's this year's Northern Star Award, which we used to call the Lou Marsh Award, is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Of course, he's an NBA guard at the Oklahoma City Thunder. Second time he's won the award, and you had to have had a great season for Summer McIntosh not to be the Athlete of the Year. Anyway, he was the MVP of the NBA last year, led the whole league in scoring, won the championship, MVP of the NBA Finals. Not too bad. So he's the MVP. He's the Northern Star Award winner this year. Other finalists, Summer McIntosh, of course. Rachel Homan, curler, who's going to represent Canada at the Olympics. Sophie DeGoody, rugby star, super player. And Cameron Rogers, hammer throw, Olympic gold medalist, hammer thrower. All right, there you go. Saw a tweet, or maybe it was a Facebook post, from Softball Canada, congratulating local Bradley Ezekiel from Harbour, Maine. Incredible career with the Canadian men's national team program. So he's been playing with the national team since 2012, competed in 6 consecutive WBSC Men's Softball World Cups, bronze medals in 17 and 19, silver in 2022. He won a gold back in 15. Congratulations to Brad Ezekiel. What a career he had. Boy, oh boy. With the national team, he's not done playing softball. And it's not like I was going to go to a World Cup game necessarily when Canada, Mexico, and the United States join as co-hosts for the upcoming World Cup. At the beginning, when the bids were made, they were talking about some relatively inexpensive tickets to be put forward by all the confederations to offer to their very loyal fans. Yeah, saw the prices released yesterday. Oh, man. To go to the first game in Toronto, which is probably going to be Canada and Italy. Cheapest ticket, $1,385. All the way up to $4,000. So the most loyal fans are going to have some pretty deep pockets if they're going to go to a World Cup game in Toronto. A little cheaper in BC, but that's sort of strange. All right, a couple of nice ones. Holiday positive stories to get us going here this morning. Good on the folks at Collision Clinic. I think yesterday was their 22nd annual car giveaway. But I guess it's actually called the Collision Clinic Enriching Lives Car Giveaway. Brilliant stuff. Alana Walsh and her children now have a new to them 2023 Chevrolet Malibu. The folks out of Collision Clinic, they volunteer their time to refurbish this car to make it roadworthy, and you can only imagine when transportation is a problem, to be the recipient of a gift like this is extraordinary. So good on the folks at Collision Clinic for doing that again this year. I'm pretty sure this is the 22nd time. And good for the folks out of Bursey's Busing. So they've now offered free transportation to folks who are disabled to be able to go on school field trips. These little things matter. So good on Collision Clinic, good on Bursey's Busing, and off we go. And on that front, I know the government is relatively new here, but the pledge to open a disabilities advocate's office, it'd be nice to know what the status of that is. In addition to that, I still get questions about what's going on with the registered disability savings plan for those with a disability tax credit, where everything starts if you're going to avail of any of those funds, including the monthly benefit. I don't have a status update of the RDSP, but we're still actively trying to get it. This morning here on the VOC Morning Show, I heard Jerry Lynn Mackey and Jen Crow from Choices from Youth have a conversation about the kind of supports they offer, housing, food, and otherwise. At the exact same time, I was reading an email from a listener on the Burin Peninsula talking about this one circumstance, a 17-year-old, some sort of issue in the home with their parents, now living on his own. He's not old enough to qualify for any other social services because you have to turn 18. So he's left in limbo. So I guess the big conversation would be, in the urban centre, like for Choices for Youth, and they served some 1,000 youth last year and found them a place to live, and of course the other support services, employment training and what have you. They've got another 200 people on the wait list, I heard. The question then becomes, if you don't live in an urban setting, what then? And what kind of supports are out there? And it's a question I don't have an answer to, but I have a funny or bad feeling that the supports are limited, if not non-existent. So while we were having that conversation about, supports offered in St. John's and surrounding area, Burin Peninsula emailed talking about a very scary set of circumstances for this one 17-year-old. So we could talk about rural supports, and we should. All right. And on that front, the homeless numbers continue to rise. There was all sorts of conversations and headlines and news stories when we were talking about Tent City. And it really got a lot of traction when the tents were popped up across the parkway from the Confederation building. And then, of course, moved down to the Colonial building, then disbanded. It's very much like conversations I've sometimes had on this program about panhandlers and the homeless and the quote-unquote eyesore they become for tourists and locals alike. We've really gotten to a place where we're simply shuffling people around, whether they be panhandlers, whether they be homeless people, but that does nothing. It absolutely achieves zero. Just moving people around, even if you're talking about panhandlers in the downtown core, and all of a sudden they were moved out of there and you found them on the Marshall Road, they're still panhandlers in the exact same life circumstance. So that whole thought and concept of just moving people around out of the line of sight for more heavily populated parts of the province or city or more tourist traffic zones like the downtown, sure, I understand the sentiment of what it might mean for a tourist to see what's happening in the downtown, and it has changed dramatically over the last number of years. But just shuffling people around really achieves nothing. Absolutely nothing. But let's take it on if you're so inclined. All right, I think we've got to keep this particular story going because it's important, and it's a real case study in the system regarding mental health. Now, to begin with, there was an email we got early in the week where a very thoughtful listener wrote in and talked about the distinction between mental health and addictions. We unfortunately lump them into the one thing, when in fact they don't necessarily have to go together. In some circumstances they do. Of course they do. But not all the time. So it was a real interesting jumping off point to reconsider how we talk about mental health, to reconsider how we talk about addictions, because they are two different things. One person may suffer from both and require treatment for both, but the conversation gets all bundled up when I'm not so sure that's the best way to think or to talk about it. And we'll put that back out there for your consideration. But the case study story that I'm referring to, of course, is 32-year-old Mitchell Rose. Very serious story, very serious charges, and very serious injuries suffered by the victims. Stands accused of 2 counts of attempted murder, 3 counts of assault with a weapon, 3 counts of assault causing bodily harm. Okay. So again, for me, the initial thought is I feel terrible for the victims because of course I do. But when the conversation all of a sudden is deemed to be bleeding heart, I'm not so sure that's the best focus to take. Now, your opinion, your focus is yours, and here's mine. This is a story about the system. It just is. If we have changed our tactics, and there's something called a community treatment order, it's a designation issued by a psychiatrist so that someone can provide mandatory and involuntary care to a person with severe mental illness. Mitchell Rose had that designation, but unbeknownst to his family, was released from that designation, and consequently, what would have been a go-to allowance for people to be able to avail of the Assertive Community Treatment Act team during the time of crisis, it all of a sudden went by the wayside. We had a very informative caller yesterday about reading directly from the Mental Health Act. So what we need to understand here is exactly what authority is available to the RNC's Mobile Mental Health Crisis Team. How and why can we have the community treatment order be lifted without anybody in Mitchell Rose's realm, his family, to be made aware? I know it's got to be renewed every 6 months, but when we're talking about renewing a designation for someone who, in their own life circumstances, is probably wholly unable to make sound, solid decisions for himself or herself, then this is a system failure. Of course, and I repeat, I absolutely feel horrible and terrible and sad for those who were the victims, because that just seems to be a very normal way to approach this story. But when the system has failed these victims, has failed this individual, Mitchell Rose, has failed his family, has failed the community, that's where we have to take the conversation. This court case will proceed and we'll find out the end result. But in the world of public safety, and for responsibility that the province takes with people, whether it's an addiction, whether it's a severe mental illness, it's got to be done very carefully, compassionately, and with precision. And in this case, it wasn't. It became a file number, not a person. It became a file number, not the potential ramifications in the community, with 2 charges of attempted murder. So this is a system story. Yes, we can focus directly in on the community treatment order, specifically for Mitchell Rose, the family circumstances that were not made aware of the change in designation. And yes, of course, this story will garner the attention, but the next stories and the next conversations really do need to be about the system as a whole. Because this is a system story as much as it is a story of a potentially tragic set of circumstances. People were seriously injured. There was one woman in the hospital in critical condition. We understand she's doing better, and I'm glad to hear that. But the whole broad strokes of the system regarding mental health, severe mental illness, involuntary care, protection of the public, protection of the individual, let's see if we can't get down to a little more brass tacks on that one. Had someone send me an interesting set of comments or a commentary about Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro. And they talk about their quarterly profits, and they're down because of rate mitigation, of which we don't really have a full grasp on how that actually works. But it was interesting in that, they say we refer to it as a publicly owned corporation. It's a crown corporation. It's a bit of a misnomer, isn't it? Because all those quarterly profits, where do they go? Are they reinvested into hydro? Are they used for ongoing operations? Do they flow to the provincial government coffers? Are they used to mitigate my bills? And informed they are. But it is a bit of a misnomer about publicly owned. Because yes, they don't have any of their own money. They make their money based on rates and other operations at hydro. But it was an interesting, curious take on what constitutes a publicly owned corporation. On that front, here we are, the colder months. Pledges and conversations about removing the provincial portion of the HST off our power bills, off our hydro bills, is a good one. And it's a good place to start when we talk about the affordability crisis that so many people are living through and in. On that front, we know that there's something still going on about pursuing the Upper Churchill Memorandum of Understanding. There's a lot of confusion, even more than there was a month ago. Let's get a Friday holiday surprise, an early Christmas present for the tax-paying public. Reopen the House next week. Before we get into the Christmas break and people take their eye off the prize, and hopefully people will have an opportunity to depoliticize the world, at least for a few days. Let's open up the House. Let's ask some questions. Let's get a better understanding of exactly where we are. It's just too important. We're talking 50, 60 years of implications here. And yes, I know the government is relatively new, but they campaigned on this because the Liberals campaigned on it. The Liberals campaigned on the merit of the MOU. The PCs campaigned on the independent review, and things have changed, even insofar as Premier Wakeham's tune and next steps. So let's reopen the House. Why not? What's the downside? Well, what could possibly be the downside here? So I wouldn't mind seeing that. In addition to that, people don't want to see a story like the proposals for green hydrogen wind farms and the like here on the shores, on the island of Newfoundland. I read a story in the Financial Times, and it really has a distinct look of the hydrogen bubble having burst. There's somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 major low-carbon hydrogen projects that have been cancelled or paused. So the capacity is not there. The fundamentals don't add up at this moment in time. Demand is not there. The costs remain high. The infrastructure is missing. So what does that mean for any of the proposals here in this province? Fair question. Don't know. All right, a couple of quick ones. So apparently the United States alcohol inventory, $3.2 million worth of it, is flying off the shelves. The NLC yesterday had to pause online orders for American booze, and they're still trying to transport it to different parts of the province, including into Labrador. And the question someone wants me to put out there, I'm happy to do it. For starters, I think it should be up to the consumer as to whether or not they want to buy American booze. But the question that many people want me to pose is, okay, after this $3.2 million worth is sold, and considering what the demand looks like, should the province continue to reorder American stock? For me, I'm torn. But ultimately, if I was pressed to answer one way or the other, I think, yes, if the consumer demand is there, then fine. I understand the want to poke a stick in the eye of the Americans because of a variety of things, but if people want it, then isn't that what should rule the day? I don't know. Your thoughts, most welcome here. All right. So, a couple of days ago, this young fella, Zach Mulrooney, arrested again on dealing drugs, allegedly. He's already facing, and he was out on bail, strict conditions. So he's been blamed in the past for supplying a drug that caused a fatal overdose, and as a result, he's facing a manslaughter charge. So then he's apparently got picked up again dealing drugs. And it's a funny thing, it's like, I quit, no, you're fired. He chose yesterday in court to stay behind bars. It's the first time in the province that someone's been charged with a serious charge like manslaughter because they sold drugs to someone who died as a result. People make choices, even though when you're in the death throes of addictions, you may indeed make nothing but bad choices. But when you thought you were buying Xanax and what you got was a cocktail of synthetic opioids and it killed you, that belongs in the courts as a manslaughter charge, right? So now this young fella, teenager, is back in jail where he belongs, and because of this. So I think that's a really worthwhile conversation to pursue, and obviously a very scary story. A 14-year-old kid is dead. All right. This one is something else. For the second time in just a month or so, a Conservative member of Parliament has decided to cross the floor to join the Liberals. The last day of Parliament. Okay, so now the Liberal government is just one seat short of a majority. So we all remember the story when Chris D'Entremont crossed the floor to join the Liberals. Then Matt General quit the Conservative caucus, sitting as an independent, not sure what his future looks like. And now this Michael Maw, who represents a Toronto-based riding, or very, very close to Toronto. Okay. So it's Markham Unionville. And he says it was, as a result of talking with his constituents. Look, it's probably fair to say that many people in this country, when they go to cast a vote, they simply vote for the party as opposed to vote for the candidate. It's somewhat a bit of a strange approach to take, but many people do it. And sometimes I probably have done it in the past as well. But the reaction, once again, is wild. So, you read some of these social media threads on this subject, and of course, Conservative supporters will feel betrayed. They voted for a Conservative candidate. But now, at the same time, Markham Unionville has flip-flopped back and forth. It's a very competitive riding. So their member is now a Liberal. Then you read people saying, look, I didn't vote for a majority Liberal government. No, you're right, because that's not a thing. Individual Canadians, individual voters can't vote for minorities or majorities. It's at the end of the day, the votes are tabulated. We see which party comes out with however many seats. It's either a minority parliament or a majority parliament. Whether or not it should trigger a by-election is an absolutely fair conversation. But this bit about I didn't vote for majority, I'm not even sure how that thought process works, because individual voters don't have that type of power here. And Conservatives are not pleased. And whether the assertion is that he's been offered something cushy by the Liberals, as opposed to a little bit of soul-searching at the Conservative level. If people are saying that they're leaving because of Mr. Poilievre's leadership and are leaving because they appreciate Mr. Carney's leadership, that's an individual decision. Yes, Conservatives feel like they've been hard done by, but what should be the opportunity? And this is not new. It's also the same thing when Chris D'Entremont chose to cross the floor. People reacted as if, what? How did this possibly happen? Well, this has never happened before. It's happened hundreds of times. Literally hundreds of times. So the Conservatives short a member, the Liberals one seat closer to a majority. Last one. Plenty of news stories and plenty of social media commentary about a Santa Claus parade out in Central that featured a float from Jonathan Rowe, the Conservative member for Terra Nova the Peninsulas, where it was one of the political slogans of jail, not bail, was featured on the float, and it had Grinch behind bars. Mr. Rowe says it was an attempt to be humorous. It's always better when you're trying to be funny if it actually comes across funny. And, we have a real penchant for politicizing everything. Every now and then, it's probably pretty good on our mental well-being to take a little bit of politics out of stuff where politics really doesn't play a role. The Santa Claus parade doesn't feel like a real good spot for that particular approach. I don't know what he feels on the aftermath of hearing some of the commentary. You can politic it up 24/7, 365 minus a few days, a few opportunities where people just want to catch their breath. People just want to have a bit of fun. People just want to enjoy the Santa Claus parade. It felt like a really odd thing to do, and your thoughts on that are most welcome. Oh, and today's the 40th anniversary of the Arrow Air disaster. 256 members of the American military killed after they just took off from Gander and crashed. There were so many different thoughts about what might have happened there, whether it be the wings weren't appropriately de-iced. People talk about seeing fireballs, explosion, and terrorism. But today's the 40th anniversary. I heard Tom Badcock on with Brian Medora this morning, one of the first to arrive at the scene of that tragic disaster. So that's 40 years ago today. Amazing. We're on Twitter or VOCM Open Line. Follow us there. Email address is openon@vocm.com. When we come back, let's have a great show to wrap up the week. That can only happen if you're in the queue. Don't go away.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Big Land FM radio network.
Welcome back to the show. Let's begin this morning on line number 1, the top of the board. Good morning, Melissa. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you?
Great today. Thank you. How about you?
I am quite well, thank you. Obviously a big topic this week on your show has been our mental health and addiction system, as well as the unfortunate situation that is going on with the young man, Mitchell Rose. So I'm a graduate student at the Faculty of Medicine at MUN. I am doing a thesis-based program in community health. And my thesis is actually based off of our mental health and addiction care system. So I thought it'd be a good time to kind of call in and, do two birds with one stone, kind of mention a bit of my research, but also to address some of the situations I've been coming across in my my research for my thesis. So to start off, obviously, you just actually mentioned, so I thought I would briefly just mention it. You talked about community treatment orders in your preamble. So community treatment orders in particular, from the research that I have been a part of and the personal connection I actually have to the mental health system, they don't happen for just mild mental health related issues. This is just supposed to be for individuals who are usually committed to an institution or a facility, often against their own will or for long-term treatment. So it's not somebody who has a mild case of depression or some anxiety who's just released back out into the general public. These are individuals who have very complex situations. One example I would like to give is actually my mother-in-law passed in 2022. I still believe it's due to complications that were the result of her mental illness. She had bipolar type 1, and being somebody with bipolar type 1 who had some psychosis, a lot of her symptoms used to get dismissed, and she went a week having a heart attack before she finally had a stroke. So in that situation, she had a community treatment order. So my husband actually has lived in the St. John's area for an extended period of time, and his mother lived out in Port aux Basques in a care facility. So he was not allowed to be the community contact for her mental health support because he wasn't local. So for her to maintain all of the care that she required, the people who were on that form, the people who were required to be a part of her care, had to be people who were accessible by the healthcare system. She had a lot of things that took place and happened that were probably beyond what the community treatment order was supposed to be for. However, she required it because she was not capable of living on her own in the general public. Obviously, she lived in a care facility, so she had the support of individuals that were there for her care. This is not something that's just handed out either. It's a 9-page report. And actually, there's 40-some-odd pages of actual documentation that needs to be done in order to process a CTO. But the onus tends to be on the individual to maintain their own care if they want to stay on this CTO. Based off of what I've been hearing from Janaea Rose in her post and from the news stories about Mitchell Rose. And if the person is part of the care team, this CTO lists them, those people are supposed to be part of the care. I feel it's unfair to have anybody who has a CTO get dropped, especially if the situation is that they're not maintaining their own care. because the purpose is so they're allowed to be maintaining their care in the general public. Typically, when you go against something like a CTO or a court order, basically it's a legal document, they would have to be reinstitutionalized to maintain their care. So, somebody dropped the ball here, or many people dropped the ball. And this is kind of a segue into what I'm doing in my research for my thesis. And it's actually tied directly to the new state of mental health and addiction support in Newfoundland and Labrador. So a couple years ago, the big words that we were using within healthcare was we were talking about the Newfoundland and Labrador Health Accord. So the Newfoundland and Labrador Health Accord is extremely essential to reference as a framework for moving forward for maintaining effective health in our province, so we can continue to afford it. So we have enough doctors, nurses, healthcare professionals. One of the main themes that we see is community-based care. Community-based care is a way to prevent people from needing to be hospitalized or receiving formal care in a health institution. So a lot of the onus on the healthcare continuation is based off of, one, the individual to maintain the supports themselves, but also for the community to support it. And what we don't know is how that is rolling out. We don't know how it's going to happen. My research is primarily in rural Newfoundland. However, obviously, our only mental health and addictions care facility for complex situations is located here in St. John's, the new facility here, previously the Waterford. But most of my research is going to be done in the rural regions. And the purpose is that we're seeing a lot more news-based stories. We're seeing social media stories about people who have either feel like they've been let down by the mental health and addiction system or feel like more needs to be done. But what we're not seeing is how it's working. So as the NL Health Accord rolls out this community-based care plan, and the health zones, which used to be health authorities, so now the health zones, as they adapt and adopt it, how are they functioning? How are people getting where they need to go? So that is where my research is going to come in. I have plans to meet with 30 individuals from rural Newfoundland. I have 5 communities that I will be visiting over the next year. One in Labrador, one on the Northern Peninsula, one in Western, one in Central, and here one in Eastern Rural. And I'm going to be speaking with frontline workers who are giving these supports, mental health and addictions related, and I say both, only because you mentioned earlier there is a very big distinction between the mental health support and addictions. However, there is a crossover because research shows many people with mental illness who don't have the health supports that they require are self-medicating and in turn end up with addiction-related issues. Not always, but there is a very strong correlation between the two. So the same people are treating both individuals. This is why the system has evolved to have more mental health and addictions care together. So I'll be talking to these frontline workers in hope to find out how their processes are working, see if they vary region to region, and hopefully get a stronger idea of how they're providing these services in rural regions where the hospital services are not equivalent to the care that they may receive at the mental health and addictions facility here in St. John's. My other part of my research actually is going to be a survey. So early in the new year, I'll make sure I send the information to you and probably call back when I actually get to launch it. But after my ethics approval gets through, I'm going to be releasing a survey, and that survey is for all across Newfoundland and Labrador. It's for anybody who has ever had any interaction or has seen interaction with the mental health and addictions care in Newfoundland and Labrador, just to give their thoughts and their rankings on different aspects of the care system. I'm going to then take the two pieces of information and do a comparison. So I'm going to be able to see, hopefully the goal is to be able to see if what the providers say they're providing and what the experiences are, if they go hand in hand, and then I'm going to compare it to the Newfoundland and Labrador Health Accord. It's a bit complicated when I get into all the nitty-gritty, but overall what I want to try and see and what I'm hoping to get from this is a solid foundation on how community-based care is or is not effective currently in Newfoundland and Labrador. So if we're seeing these issues now here in St. John's, where the mental health facility is right here, I'm kind of unfortunately looking forward to seeing what types of situations I'm going to see pop up in rural Newfoundland and Labrador. But I think that it's important for everybody to understand that these services are supposed to be available all across the province. You mentioned in particular, and I only want to mention it briefly, but the mobile crisis response teams. They're a very important part of our community health-based system. However, when I started research last year, I found out, and I think this is going to be a shocking statistic for a lot of people, from April 1st last year, when the Mobile Crisis Response Unit launched in Stephenville, and October 21st, when I received my data from Newfoundland and Labrador Health Services, 0 calls for service happened in Stephenville. 0 calls for service. Nobody received a phone call for mental health and addictions support. So, there's a disconnect somewhere, and hopefully
Absolutely.
I can find it with my research. But, but I wanted to let people know that these things are happening, and we're not seeing them. These are not publicly published information. It took digging to get. But because of all of the stuff I've been dealing with and researching, I thought it was important to bring it forward currently, give you some background and some information, and kind of let the public know that, I am coming their way. I am looking into this. Hopefully we can see what's going to happen from our mental health and addiction system in rural Newfoundland and across the province.
It's a worthwhile exercise. I wish we had more time, Melissa. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. All right, that was quick. Let's get a break and don't go away.
Call now. This is Open Line on the VOCM Big Land FM radio network.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go line number 2. Good morning, Michael Hunt. You're on the air.
Morning, Patty. How are you this morning?
Great, thank you. How about you?
Oh, I'm good, sir. I'm delighted to be calling in as a first-time listener, or first-time caller, long-time listener.
Welcome to the program.
So I just want to reach out on behalf of the RNC Association and make listeners aware of a food drive we're putting off on Sunday coming. So we've partnered with Bridges to Hope for this food drive. And on Sunday, we're going to be at Dominion and Mount Pearl from 9 to 12. And then we'll be at Sobeys on Kelsey Drive from 1 to 4. We'll be collecting, of course, monetary donation, as well as perishable or non-perishable food items, sorry.
I don't know. I mean, I've been doing this a long time. I've been in the media for about 20 years now. I can't remember a time where so many people were struggling even just to feed themselves. I mean, I know it's a national story. Over 2 million Canadians relying on food banks. The first one opened in Edmonton in 1981. It was a Band-Aid solution, and now it's a reality of life.
Yeah, I mean, the need is there, and we certainly see it, every day in our line of work. Bridges to Hope alone serves 1,500 individuals per month, and 30% of those are children. So the need certainly is there, and of course, we're in a position where through community service we can give back and help to address that need, and we're quite happy to do so.
So, Michael, you mentioned in the work you do, of course, as a member of the RNC, what it means for people who are hungry. Give us some examples of what you mean by that.
Well, I mean, we'll often be exposed to situations where, poverty is very, very clear and real. And, you go to houses and you see where food is not plentiful. And, of course, people you deal on day to day. I mean, and it's not just food. The need is there for personal care items as well. Which is, the need is rampant, sadly, but it is there.
And, you mentioned monetary donations or non-perishables, whatever the case may be. I read a quote coming from a representative of the board of directors at the Community Food Association, and I've never really fully understood this magic trick, but he's talking about a $10 donation. They can stretch that to about $200 worth of groceries. I have some idea about how they pull that off, but a bit of money really does go a long, long way in the hands of people at Bridges to Hope or community food sharing or whatever the case may be. So please consider doing that if at all possible. Anything else you'd like to add this morning, Michael, while we have you?
No, that's it. I'd just like to, I'll give the details again. And
Please.
we are kicking things off with a $1,000 donation on behalf of the RNC Association and its membership. So again, we'll be Dominion Mount Pearl, 9 to 12, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and in Sobeys and Kelsey Drive, 1 to 4. And we encourage everyone, if they're able to do so, to drop by, say hello, and give a donation if they can.
Appreciate the time. Thanks, Michael.
Take care. Merry Christmas.
Same to you. Bye-bye. All right, I want to try to hit this break quasi on time, mostly because the boss is producing today. All right, so, we talk about this being the anniversary of the Arrow Air disaster. 12th of December 1985, 248 members of the American military, the U.S. Army Airborne 101 Division, heading home from Sinai, Egypt for the holidays. And I mentioned, that some of the theories about what happened have long been part of the public conversation. But I was also reminded that today is also an anniversary of the Knights of Columbus hostel fire that happened in the city of St. John's, 1942, on December the 12th. So I had forgotten about that. 99 people were killed. 80 of those were military personnel. There was another 109 that were critically wounded in that particular fire. They're talking about this maybe being enemy sabotage, which I don't know if there's ever been a distinct case about the cause of that fire, but I had forgotten about that, so I really appreciate John letting me know. And to that end, their annual vigil is today. So the Knights of Columbus Terra Nova Council, Archbishop Howley Assembly, and others will be taking part in an annual vigil at the 11 p.m. at the Harvey Road site. There you go. The 83rd anniversary. Let's get a break. And when we come back, Bill wants to talk about the rule of law and then whatever you want to talk about. Don't go away.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Big Land FM radio network.
Welcome back to the program. Let's go. Line number 3. Bill, you're on the air.
Yes, I'd like to talk about rule of law, but before that, I would like to. I'm a big believer in the studying of history, and to that end, I'd like to give a big shout out to the DAI, which is the Digital Archives Initiative at the university. Are you familiar with that one?
I have not availed of it. I know what it is, though. Yes.
Oh, it's a great resource, and I think there was, I think it was Slavko Manojlovic at the university. He was a librarian. I think it was his initiative, but you can go on and read all kinds of old newspapers. You can read the Evening Telegram from, I think it goes back for the late 1800s, since it was published in different newspapers. And more recently, I've been reading into 1957. But before that, like you mentioned about the Knights of Columbus fire, and and I read about they had an inquiry about that afterwards.
They did, yeah.
Yes, they did, and I read, like, so we call this primary source, I guess, and so I read about that, and I think they couldn't. There was a suspicion of sabotage and stuff like that, and I think they found some paper rolls thrown around and stuff like that up top. But the big thing was that there was a flaw in the construction, is that the doors opened in. I think that was the big thing that was the cause of all that tragedy. But on a lighter note, there was one thing I came across in the 1957 Evening Telegram was the comic strip of Uncle Mose. You're familiar with the Chronicles of Uncle Mose?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So for about a year and a half back there, back in 1957, that was ran as a strip. It was the Uncle Mose strip. And there was one little thing there that I found pretty amusing. Like Grandpa, there was the characters are Grandpa Walcott and a few others, and Uncle Mose, of course. And Uncle Mose said to the Grandpa Walcott, he said, are you concerned about when you're going to die, the kind of thing? And I think Grandpa Walcott, the strip, said he said, I'm not so concerned about when I'm going to die. He said, I'm more concerned about where I'm going to die, because then I can avoid that place. Okay.
Sounds like a bit of Yogi Berra.
Yeah, no, it was pretty good, right? It was Grandpa Walcott, right? But back into the rule of law, because prompted me was you say, I think one in your preamble, you said, if people want it, isn't that what should rule, right?
Well, that was a very specific comment about a very specific issue, not just in the big scheme of things, what the population wants, the population should get, because that's pretty broad stroke.
Yeah, so because what you got then is that because we got a rule of law, we got a bunch of laws and there are rules that are passed by our legislature and they're put through Hansard and stuff like that, and they're the rules that we abide by, right? So it just brings me back to the rules of the road under the Highway Traffic Act are rules that we are supposed to abide by. So if we don't abide by the rules of the road or what's published in Hansard and it's been legislated and stuff like that, then we're just following mob rule. Okay, I don't think I'm out to lunch saying that. But and that it brings me I've been calling. I called first on December 3rd and then I called December 4th, and I think I called earlier this week.
Yeah, and just on that point, I didn't know this was the same bill. We are going to go with the once a week.
Okay, you're going to cut me off now, are you?
No, I'm going to tell you once a week.
Okay, well, so what are you going to cut me off? I'm not going to finish my points?
You can finish your point.
Rule of law?
You can finish your point as long as we're not talking about left and right lane.
Why not? This is something that affects a couple of 100,000 people, and what we got going on up there is on that outer ring road is mob rule, and you seem to agree with us.
I've already made my point, and you've made yours. I mean, and that's
no, it's not a point. See, you have a big audience, and you're an influencer, and so I didn't say I caught you out on it, but I mean, you said that you're not allowed to change lanes.
You didn't catch me out. What I'm saying is in the safe passage for the motoring public, for all of us to be on the same page, as opposed to trying to look for exemptions based on signage and pretending that there's such a thing as an urban highway, I just don't think makes anything any more safe on the road. I think the school... Anyway, Bill...
I'm not pretending it's an urban highway. It is an urban highway. There's 11 interchanges in an urban environment. There's almost 50 intersections. It is an urban highway.
It's
I'm not
a highway.
making this up.
It's a highway.
It's a highway in an urban environment. Therefore, it has different rules. And the rules are the signs that are overhead.
Well, that's like saying that the 401 is an urban highway.
It is. I would say certain.
It's not. It's a highway.
Pardon me.
It's just a highway.
It's a highway that's in a very urbanized part of Ontario. I would suggest, and therefore, it's very important that you travel at the posted speed, and it's very important that people are. I mean, you said that you're not allowed to pass on the right lane. That was a comment that you put out there.
Bill,
a lot of people listen to it.
You got me.
Pardon me?
You got me.
No, it's not about me getting you. It's about the safety of over 200,000 people that have access to the road, and then other Newfoundlanders that have to come in and use that road to get to the health sites or to get to the Confederation building or to get to the university. It's a provincial road, and it's in an urban environment. I'm not trying to get you. I'm just trying to get. I'm trying to get the mob that thinks that they have their own ideas on what the rules are. There is no keep right except to pass on that section of the highway. There's no sign posted there to say that, and that is simply a sign. It's not a general rule. Okay, will you agree with that?
It's a thought process to safely navigate a multi-lane road.
No, but will you agree that keep right to accept the pass is not a general rule?
You're kind of wearing me out. You're wearing me out with this one, Bill.
Why not? You've had this for a week. You're in a position of influence and stuff like that. Yes, you have it. Have you looked it up? Have you asked your lawyer friends? Have you brought anybody on from the Work Services and Transportation? You said you talked to a couple of your top friends.
I can't make anybody do anything, right? I might be an influencer in your mind, but I can't make anybody call this program. I can't dictate to a safety council or to the RCMP or the RNC or the Minister of Transportation or anybody involved in the Highway Traffic Act and its enforcement. So there's that.
Well, I'm not asking you to dictate,
and we've
but,
had,
I asked you to bring on information, some information that we can go by. And you've had this for a week, okay?
Yeah, I'm a busy guy, Bill. I'm a busy guy.
You're going on about you keep the right, and one of your comments at the end of my call last week was keep right except the pass bill.
Yeah, it's a little bit of wisecrack. Come on, just take it as it's intended.
You influence so many people.
Not you.
That's my point, right? This is what we talked about, the rule of law. You cut me off.
What?
I said no. I don't hear you. I thought you cut me off. I mean, you talk about should we do what we like? Now, if I'd like to go overdrive 120 on that highway, should I be able to do that?
When did I say that?
Well,
I didn't.
I'm saying no, but you said no. But hold on, that was the comment you put out in your preamble. Should people be able to do what they like?
About what?
Shouldn't that be the rules?
About what? What did I say that about?
Well, I don't know. You just put it out there at the beginning of your preamble. Right?
No.
You said, and I'm calling to say that the rules of the road are part of the rule of law that we are all supposed to abide by. And if everybody stuck to 100 kilometers an hour on that highway and understood that both lanes are passing lanes and understood that no one's required to keep into the right lane, then I think we'd all be a lot safer.
Yeah,
and
okay.
there'd be a lot less. I mean, this is about the health and safety of all the people that use that road.
I tell you what, though, in the future, don't put words in my mouth. Because I'm pretty good at this.
No, not put words in your mouth. These are this is all recorded, right?
Yeah, what did I say?
You tried to put words in my mouth last week, and I wouldn't let you.
Oh,
because
boy.
It put me in a disparaging light. You know, I'm sorry, but I got to defend myself, and that's why, I hate to disagree with you, Patty.
I don't care that you disagree with me.
You influence a lot of people, and what you say, a lot of people believe.
You're the only person that thinks there's something personal going on here. There's not. I have no idea who you are. I'm not taking any of this personally.
I'm not making this personal. You're trying to make it personal. I'm not making it personal. I'm just saying, I want to travel that road, and I don't want to be. And I don't want to be because I'm being tailgated. That's the mob rule going on up there on that highway.
Okay.
And everybody's afraid to use both lanes because the mob is ruling. And I mean, how many tickets have been issued for 110 kilometers an hour on that highway?
No earthly idea.
I don't know. Somebody knows.
Yeah.
But I mean that would be. I mean, it's in the Highway Traffic Act that you're supposed to go 100, and then there's provisions for fines for every kilometer an hour over that limit.
Right.
Now, yeah.
Okay, it's 10 o'clock and 3 seconds. So
it's unsafe up there. We have had a number of deaths up on that highway, and besides that, a lot of lives have been ruined with paralysis and quadra and paraplegia, and all kinds of nasty things happen to people because people don't understand the rules of the road.
Okay. I'm late for the news. I appreciate the time. Thanks for the call, Bill.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, now.
Okay, bye-bye. Let's take that break.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Big Land FM radio network.
Welcome back. Let's go. Line number 1. Dave, you're on the air.
Good morning, sir.
Morning to you.
Just a heads up, Patty. I do a lot of walking. I'm in the Goulds here, and I'm coming down. I walk down Dials Road on the sidewalk, and although the sidewalk looks clear and bare concrete, man, there's places it is slippery, and there's no salt, nothing on. I called the city on it because the kids are in that area, up and down, going down lunch breaks and going to and from school. Of course, it's very dangerous.
Absolutely.
Very dangerous.
And, I'll add to that. There's plenty of places in the Goulds where there's nowhere safe to walk, period.
Well, yes, you're right. You are right. But in that one place by the elementary school there, I mean, the sidewalks are treacherous. It looks clear. But I tell you, I done some queer slipping walking down the road in places there.
Yeah. So, I mean, can you remind me the name of that school? Just for curiosity.
Goulds Elementary.
Goulds Elementary. Okay.
On Doyle's Road, right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, fair enough. I can picture Doyle's Road, of course, coming off the highway to get into the Goulds.
That's it.
So it's as fundamental as there's simply just no ice control in the area.
That's what it is, yeah. I mean, like I said, it's probably all over the city. I walked on the main road on the flat sidewalk, sort of, and it didn't seem to be that bad, but the temperature is dropping a bit. But on Doyle's Road, it's very deceiving, and I tell you, little kids running back and forth could be in trouble.
Yeah, because there's nothing quite like a bit of black ice, like in my parking lot and out behind our building and on my street this morning where I almost dumped myself arse over tea kettle.
Yeah, I know. You do some queer steps.
Yeah, just kind of shuffling around, not walking in a normal gait, just kind of shuffling your feet, sliding around.
Yeah. No, I thought just a heads up, I mean, kids out there running to school, running and going. Someone could break their arm or leg or whatever there.
Yeah, so for someone listening at the city who is in charge of ice control, please do indeed attend to that spot, specifically on Doyle's Road around Gould's Elementary. Please.
Yeah, I called and 311 and told them that too, Rick.
Okay, good. Right thing to do.
All right, sir.
Appreciate the call, Dave. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye. Yeah, I mean, on days like this, because we had the big wild temperature swings, right? It was freezing cold over the weekend, then it got a lot milder yesterday, and now it's pretty frigid today. So whether you're driving or walking or whatever you're doing, the likelihood of encountering some black ice is absolutely real today. Let's go to line number 2. Lindsay, you're on the air.
Turn around. Where are you at?
What are you at?
Good morning.
Hi, Lindsay.
How are you doing, Paddy?
Grand. How about you?
Not bad, boy. Jesus, how's your dog making out, boy?
Doing great. Thanks a lot, Lindsay. Dexter's going to be 1 year old tomorrow.
Dexter, Dexter's going to be 1 year old.
Yep.
Yeah, Paddy, I'm phoning from the Southern Shore, lad.
Okay.
Yeah, Paddy, you know what I mean? But
I don't know what you
we
mean.
have a lot of issues around here. Like we're paying council fees or water fees, and you had no water the last day up in Ferguson. I don't know. I talked to Buddy, you know, and we don't get nothing, you know.
I thought the water issue had been fixed or solved out in Fairland.
No, they had turned down the other day there in Calvert.
Okay.
That's where the main place is.
And so what, was there a water main break in Calvert?
No, that's where the well is, Paddy.
Okay.
I mean, Ferdinand.
Very good.
Right?
Yep.
So, and I like to get something done around it. Like, I'm not in the right situation, you know what I mean?
So how long has the water issue persisted?
No, it's back now, Paddy.
Oh, it's back now. I thought so. Yeah, okay.
It's back. No, yeah. Whatever. But as I'm talking, Paddy, we about a year ago, right? We had our house burnt in Ferdinand. You heard about that, didn't you?
I did so, yeah.
125 years old. And we had no insurance. No, so I was talking to somebody said, start a fund, not a fundraiser, is it fundraiser, is it?
Fundraiser, yeah.
For the is it fundraiser, am I right?
Yeah, if you're trying to raise money, it's a fundraiser, yep.
Yeah, but who do I go to? Like, who do I, you know? What step do I take?
Well, it depends on what kind of tactic you want to take with fundraising. Like, there's online fundraising that you could do, like a site called GoFundMe, which is pretty popular. They do take a cut of the money raised, but that's a way that you can do it.
Okay, you help me on that, sir.
Sure. So, do you use a computer?
No, I don't even know how to turn on a computer, Paddy lad.
Okay, so it's going to be tricky to use an online platform to fundraise. Other than that, I suppose, I don't know what kind of options are out there for the general public, you know, whether it be you make a public plea like here, but here's what I'm going to tell you. If you really want to have a successful, wide-reaching fundraiser for something like replacement cost of your home that burnt down, is you must have some buddies who do use the computer, though, right? Because they can help you. It's really simple to do.
Yeah, but I'm not. Yeah, okay. It's talking about that. I just want to get a bit of money raised.
I understand. So if I was you, I'd go to one of my friends or my children or whatever the case may be who do use the computer, are savvy with the computer, and you tell them that you'd like to establish a fundraiser, and they'll say, you know, and I would suggest maybe something like GoFundMe. There are other options out there, but it's just GoFundMe and set it up, and maybe you'll have some luck there.
Okay, now, Paddy, before I leave now, buddy, yeah, that's right. So, yeah, that's really pleasant. And what was I going to say? Yeah, because, Jesus Christ, man, the house is still there. Or the house is gone now, like they're a food land for them, right?
Yeah, I'm familiar with that particular story.
Yeah,
and it's terrible.
You're from the Cape Shore. Eddie Coffey's your buddy, isn't he?
Say that part again?
You know Eddie Coffey?
I know
Eddie Coffey from the Cape Shore.
Yeah, great foggy day, Eddie, yeah.
The great foggy day, yes, it's all foggy up here. Well, listen, Paddy, I don't want a lot of people, I'll probably get some phone calls now since I'm talking to you.
Yeah, if people want to chip in and help, but if you really want a big, wide reach for trying to raise some money, then, someone can help you set up a GoFundMe online. They seem to be pretty successful. If the story's compelling and people are willing and wanting to help, that's a good place to try to do it.
Yeah, well, Paddy Daly, lad. You're from the Cape Shore, yeah? Or St. Mary's?
St. Mary's. My father's from Riverhead.
What's your last name?
My last name, Paddy Daly? Daly.
Yeah. But okay, Paddy, I haven't gone in the woods now. Get a load of wood.
Good luck with it.
Yeah, got a Merry Christmas to you. Now put the Christmas tree up.
Got the tree up. No ornaments on yet. Got the lights on. Ornaments this weekend.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Paddy. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Stay in touch, Lindsay. All the best.
Okay, buddy.
Okay, man. All right, bye-bye. Yeah. Let's see here. We're pretty close to the break time, so we won't squeeze anyone in. Let's check in on the Twitter box. Some pretty serious action there this morning. We're VOCM Open Line. You know what to do. You leave a comment there, pose a question, suggestion, criticism, compliment, whatever you like. Email address is openline@vocm.com. I've been asked why I don't talk about housing affordability. What? So whether it be in general terms and or some of the big proposals being made in the city, for instance. And there are a couple of big proposals, whether it be on Lamarchin Road or the old Ballyhaley site. So the question is obviously going to be, it's going to be, multi-use stuff. So some single detached homes, maybe some traditional bungalow-style homes, maybe some executive homes, apartments. So when people ask me what the affordability is going to look like, it's difficult to say. I mean, for starters, it's going to change when the times change because costs only go up, whether it be for labor, whether it be for materials. And as I've said, I don't know, let's say round number, a million times, is affordability will be the trick. You can have federal government policy as Build Canada homes. You can have provincial policies. Municipal issues need to be addressed because that's a time lag concern. But it's always going to be tricky to hit the affordability target. And it's hard to give a definitive answer today because the answer will change a month from now. When we use affordability, and the definition broadly used is 30% of your income to be afforded through mortgage payments and or your rent payments. So again, it's different for everybody. What's affordable to me might be different for Beth Fagan, who's now sitting in the producer's chair, or for Fred, who writes the emails about it. So, yeah, we'll ask questions about affordability because that is the key. We can build units. If people can't afford them, then okay. Let's get a break. And when we come back, 24-hour snow clearing and whatever you want to talk about, don't go away.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Big Land FM radio network.
Welcome back. Let's go. Line number 1. Ricky, you're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy. How are you today, sir?
Couldn't be better. Ricky, how about you?
Not too bad. Phoning from the West Coast, Paddy. I'd like to comment on what I seen on the news last night about John Hogan, the former premier.
Okay.
Discusses me, Paddy, to see how he gets on. He's like a spoiled brat. That's what he's like. Talking about the 24-hour snow clearing. And, Paddy, they promised that to us out here 10 or 12 years ago. And a lot of people here, out my way, like I'm from St. George's and Port aux Basques area and whatever, travel to Deer Lake all hours of the night, catch flights to go west to work. Mm-hmm. And the Liberals had promised that snow clearing to us about 10 or 12 years ago for every year, and it never ever showed up. And now here's Mr. Hogan complaining that Mr. Wakem was going to spend $1 million or more on the 24-hour snow clearing. That turns my stomach, Paddy, because the way he's talking is like our lives don't matter,
Yeah, I didn't hear him. And so some of the bugaboo that the Liberals have spoken to here is on the campaign trail when the Tories were saying it cost somewhere around $1.9 million, and it turns out in real life cost $3.2 million, I think is the number, which for me as a member of the motoring public, I'm fine with that. If we do a better job with winter maintenance, ice control and snow clearing, it's okay by me if it costs $3 million. It's okay by me if we increase the 14 routes for 24/7 to 28 routes next year, and whatever the cost is, fine by me, because we got to be safe on the roadway. And we're talking about peanuts in the big scheme of things. The provincial budget is around $11 billion. If we're going to spend a few extra million to keep the roads clear for people who don't have any other choice, whether it be to catch a flight or to go to an appointment or to get home from work, whatever it is, the streets, the roads, the highways need to be clear and safe as possible.
Well, Paddy, I worked out west, and my wife used to come to Deer Lake to pick me up 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. The flight I'd get in Deer Lake. And many of the times, Paddy, I come home and a foot of snow on the road. Just brutal, Paddy. And for him to be talking like that, and like you were just saying, it might cost 3.2, even $4 million. Even if it costs $8 million, who do you think is paying this, Paddy? Who do you think is paying this?
I'm chipping in on it.
That's right. We, the taxpayer, are paying for this, and we're paying for safety, Paddy. And to watch him get on there and mouth off at Mr. Wakeham, which was trying to turn this political suicide that was happening in Newfoundland, like I'll touch base, like, okay, Churchill Falls agreement with Quebec. That's one of many things. There was no problem for him to give $50,000 to their members under the table until somebody leaked it out. So that cost probably close to $1 million, Paddy. So how much, oh, he's like a spoiled brat, Like, I can't believe the way that man acts on TV.
Yeah, I didn't see last night's news, as a matter of fact, so I don't know. I don't have anything to refer back to. But, it's going to take some getting used to with the Liberals now all of a sudden in opposition, because since 2015, they've been the government. Now, I get people complaining to me that, it's too early for the Liberals to start complaining or questioning the government. Well, I don't know when it's acceptable in people's minds. The role of the opposition is pretty important stuff, but it's all in how you craft the message. There's certain ways to do certain things. You can say the exact same thing with a different tone or different choice of words, and it comes across as meaningful criticism. And this is not about John Hogan or anyone else, but, words matter, and tone matters, temperament matters. And so you can get away with complaining if it doesn't sound like just whining.
Well, you got to give Mr. Wakeham a chance, In fact, he's just a newly elected government, and you got to give him a year or so, a year and a half. You got to put feelers out there and find out what's going on. You got to go through the books, through everything, to see what the Liberals done in the last 10 to 12 years. And like the night of the election, I sit down and watch the election, and when John Hogan lost, Like one of the reporters were on and said, when he came on the podium to address the audience about his loss, he was like a little spoiled brat. Like, Like, unbelievable. He wouldn't even talk to the reporters. He walked out licking his wounds. That's the sorry state of affairs. That man shouldn't even be trying to be premier in Newfoundland, Paddy, because he acts like a little spoiled brat.
Well, I guess the members of his party voted him to be the leader, consequently to be the premier and to lead them into the next election. I'll leave it up to the individual voter whether or not they think he or Mr. Wakeham or Mr. Dinn or anyone else is up to the task. But I guess the voters have spoken. The Tories are now sitting in the government seat. And, to your point about, you got to give them a year and a half. Unfortunate reality, though, Ricky, is we don't really have that kind of time for people to get grounded in their jobs and figure out the books and move on with policy, because time is pretty important here. So I understand your point about it's early days, but, at some point, the onus is going to be on the Tories to govern, because that's what they're elected to do, and there's a lot of real big problems out there, so they've got to get at it at some point, and hopefully this is the point. Because, look, next Tuesday, Minister of Finance Craig Pardee is going to give us a fiscal update. So that will say to me that they have now understood the books. They've now understood where we are with deficit and debt. So if that's the case, then let's get on with it. What do you think?
Yes, well, you're right, Paddy. And like I said, I watched the news, and like Premier Wakeham said, well, we're getting jobs coming out of the oil patch now because they're going to build some of the modules here in Newfoundland, which the government at the time, the Liberals said, oh no, they're not going to come here. We can't force them. Listen, this is our resources. This is our sandbox. You go by our rules or you move on.
Okay.
And the sad thing about it is, Paddy, like it's going to take a while for Mr. Wakeham and his government to figure out what's going on. Like that MOU, we should never rush into that, because what we're going to do, Paddy, is going to get peanuts on the dollar.
I'm not really not sure about that. Do you think, well, I guess this is a question for you specifically, do you have any concerns about what is, people refer to an artificial deadline, but it is a deadline of some variety, and do you think we can get a better deal than what's currently on the table? I hope we can.
Oh, yes, Paddy, yes, because you got to look at the future rates, Paddy, not the rates today, down the road. Like, what's the price of electricity going to be in 2041? That's the big question, okay? Is it going to double? Or is it going to triple? We don't know that, Paddy. And then if we goes out and signs an agreement now that we're getting a few little measly pennies more for our power, Paddy, well, we look just as stupid as we did in 1969.
Well, at least, and this is not a promotion of the MOU, but at least there's an escalator in this. At least there's a couple of off-ramps in 51 and 61, if indeed the world changes dramatically. I don't know, and I've got nothing to base it on whether or not this is the best we can do, but there's a couple of questions on that front that I'd love to have an answer to. The first one for me is when Michael Sabia, who was the CEO at Hydro-Quebec, he said their replacement cost was 12 to 14 cents versus what is reflected in this MOU. Nobody asked him what he meant by that. It's one thing to say it. Another thing to elaborate on it is I would love to have an answer to that. Does that mean starting from scratch to build a new hydroelectric facility, starting from scratch to build all the required transmission, or does it mean something else? Because he never told anybody, and I'd really like to know what that means.
Well, Paddy's like this. We're getting peanuts from Churchill Falls right now.
Yep.
And if I was Premier of Newfoundland, I wouldn't be like Brian Tobin saying, we're going to shut the switches off. I'd shut the damn switches off, and I'd send a message. It wouldn't be for long, for say 8 hours or a couple hours, just to show the rest of the world that we mean business. And we got to have a stand, Paddy. You know what I mean? Like, if we don't stand up for our rights, like the saying goes, the squeaky wheel or gets the grease or whatever it is.
Yep.
So we got to be the squeaky wheel. We got to have a firm stance on this and make sure that we're going to come out on top, Paddy.
Yeah, I guess a firm stance would have to take some sort of actual strategic business approach, and that could be, walking away from a contract if people think that's the right thing to do. Turning off the power probably costs us more money in actual financial penalties than it would for making some sort of point with Hydro-Quebec.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, Paddy, but the point is you can't bleed blood from a turnip, and we got no money. They're saying we got no money. So how can you sue us for billions of dollars when we don't have it?
Well, they can.
So,
well,
I know they can, but Paddy, what I'm just saying is referring to, like, shut the damn power off for a couple hours, let the eastern seaboard go down dark. Let her go down dark, and then say, well, then you got the other side of the border saying, listen, where's our power? And then Quebec, they're saying, well, Newfoundlanders shut it off. Well, you come to the table with us and negotiate a decent deal, not trying to rip us off, and give us a decent price for the kilowatts. At least we might have cheaper power in Newfoundland after a while. Paddy, and saying this, Paddy, we're like, I was out to Alberta, and people used to say to me, why do you come out here to work when you are the richest province in Canada, probably the richest place in the world? You got every resource. How come you guys don't develop these resources and ship out the refined product, and instead of us having a population of 800,000 or 900,000 or a million or whatever we got, Paddy, there'd be probably 10, 20 million people on this island. We'd be like maggots on a cod head because it'd be so much work we wouldn't know what to do with it.
Resource development is always going to be a massive conversation in this province, and it does require business-friendly government, but also requires business to come to town. Because if we can't trust the government, and take this for what it's worth, if we don't trust the government to pave the roads, we don't trust them to plough the roads, we certainly can't trust them to get into the industry both feet.
Well, this is the problem, Paddy. You know what I mean? If you had an honest guy in there that's going to be strict right to the T, you know what I mean? Not be bought over under the table with a sauce full of cash or a duffel bag full of cash. Oh, I'll do this for you or whatever. But it seems like this has been happening over the years, Paddy. It's like people's being bought off, but it's all under the table and walk away. You know what I mean? Like, it's time for somebody to take a stand here in Newfoundland. And we vote these representatives, all our MHAs, to look out for us and make the decisions for us. And if they're not sure of how I'm making the decision, come back to your voters and have a referendum. But the point is, what I'm trying to get across to you, Paddy, things got to change here in Ireland. And if it don't change, we'll always be the poorest province in Canada.
There's certainly room for change. Nobody's going to argue that point with you, Ricky. And I really appreciate your time. I'm going to get to the break, but stay in touch and have a great Christmas.
Thank you, and you have a Merry Christmas, and all the staff at VOCM. I love your radio show.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patty.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. All right, let's get a break in. Fred's here to talk about municipal taxes and then whatever you want to talk about. Don't go away.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Bigland FM radio network.
Welcome back. Let's go to line number 3. Fred, you're on the air.
Hi, Patty. How you doing?
It's going good. Yep. Or
good.
Doing well.
Yeah, I want to say Merry Christmas to you and VOCM.
Same to you.
And the listeners as well, right? I got 2 quick questions for you, actually. Everybody out there's wondering what kind of dog is Dexter?
Dexter's a red miniature poodle.
Red miniature poodle?
Yep.
Wow. That's pretty neat. All right, and this is the other question: is you putting up a real tree or you got the fake one up?
Look, I have no say.
Come on, you're from St. Mary's, right?
Look, we had a real tree forever and a day, and now all of a sudden I got a fakie, and I hate it.
Oh man, really? I got mine picked out in the woods, but I didn't tell anyone, right?
I used to be famous for not only having a real tree, but having pretty ugly real trees too.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with it, boy.
I appreciate
there's nothing wrong when
the
you get the decorations on. But I got one picked out, but I'm going to wait, see? Because that way it'd be less, dried out in the house, right?
Yeah, that's one thing I did not appreciate was needles everywhere, but anyway.
Yeah, but if you go to get your tree early and mark it, right, and then go back and get it, right, and then bring it in your house then later, right? But anyway, anyway, thanks for telling me that. But I wanted to speak about municipal taxes.
Okay.
I can't understand where it's going. I'm on a fixed income, and yet everything is going up. The last municipal taxes was not just passed, but it was 8.2, and last year now they're up to 9.1, and rumor has it that the taxes are going to go up again. So at 9.1, I'm paying roughly $300 a month. I'll repeat that. I'm paying $300 a month for taxes. So I'm paying $3,600 a year, and my tax bill is $1,700 almost. No, $1,800. Sorry, $1,800 every 6 months, and my water is $345 every 6 months. So that's $690 for the water part. Anyway, I think I'd be cheaper if I got someone to deliver water to me and put it in my flush box and all the rest of it for $700. I mean, the taxes are going crazy, and I looked up a couple of salaries. You could just Google salaries. Danny Breen is making $145,000, right?
There's people working for the city making way more than that.
Well, the rumor is on the streets, sir. I live in Southlands. I'll get to that in a second. But the rumor is that if you can't get a good job with the federal government, you get better pay at the city of St. John's. Right? A lot of people say that, right?
The sunshine list at the city has grown dramatically in the last decade. There's no arguing that.
Really? Okay, I must have looked it up. Wow. But listen, the other thing, too, is I don't understand. Okay, forget that for now. But it's going up and up and up. I don't know where it's going to stop. Right? The groceries are going up. And by the way, I had to give up my home insurance because I had to go with a big deductible, right, to keep it down to below $800. But first time when I moved in Southlands, my home insurance with a $2,500 deductible used to be $127. Now I'm up over $800-900 with a big deductible. So like a $5,000 deductible. So right off the bat, if something happens with my house, I got to kick in the first $5,000 just to keep the rates down, right? It's unreal. It's unreal, boy. Right? And then I'll try to go to the next one. Another one, too, is in Southlands. I was the fifth or sixth house here that's first built in Southlands in 2002. Anyway, we wanted to join the Mount Pearl. Mount Pearl just passed the budget at 7.7 mill rate, and ours coming up, well, now, if they don't put it up, it's 9.1. And if they do put it up, let's say, even comparing today's numbers, 7.7 Mount Pearl to 9.1 now in the city. So if they put it up to 9.5 or whatever, Mount Pearl is still at 7.7. Man, oh man, it's unbelievable what's going on here. And we're all upset with the fact that we couldn't join into Mount Pearl, right, at the time. Okay, enough of that. Next thing's the parking ban. Parking ban. I'm on a roll here now. Parking ban. Why don't they leave the parking ban? Have the parking ban end on Christmas Day, which is January 6th. So start the parking ban on January 7th, because there's still a lot of people still out visiting people up to Christmas Day. So if there's a storm coming or storm comes, whatever, okay, enforce it then. But if there's no bad weather or nothing like that, why can't they let us enjoy Christmas for another 3 days with visiting people? I'll just see what you got to say about that stuff, then, and I'll say one last thing.
There was lots there. Back to the mill rate at 9.1, which is what it is for the residential taxpayers here. I don't know where it's going, but my property assessment is up. So even if they don't adjust the mill rate, my property tax is going up. And just how they calculate that, just see if I can pick a round number. Property worth $225,000, even though the median price of a home here is more like $350,000. But $225,000 times mill rate works like this: 0.0091. So tax on that property, I don't have a calculator in front of me, be around $2,000, maybe $2,025. Add in the $690 for water, you got total tax payables on a $225,000 property at about $2,800. So I'm anticipating my taxes going up, and I'm not pleased about it because it just went up 13%.
Oh my God, I know, it's unbelievable, isn't it? What I don't understand is, I know it's got to be a balanced budget because there's no loan, no borrowing or nothing, right? So there's no interest payments on loans or nothing like that. Am I correct on that?
Well, there's a couple of wiggle rooms for forecasted capital expenditures, but by legislation, municipalities have to deliver what they call a balanced budget. Yes, that's right.
Right. Okay. I'll make this as quick as I can.
Okay.
So here's another thing I don't understand either is snow plowing. Me and my neighbours are out. We help each other all out. I got really good neighbours around me, and I'm around them, whatever it is. Anyway, next thing the plow comes up, we're so sick and tired. I mean, I think you mentioned it before too, but so sick and tired having to shovel the driveway 3 times in one day. Like, we're fed up with it. So I got the tractor to stop last year, and he opened up the door and asked him, like, what's on the go? Can you clear the snow once? Like, come in far enough and have it. He said he's told to leave a little bit for the next shift. I'm going to repeat that. I'm mad about it. He said he's got to leave a bit for the next shift, so they got something to do 12 o'clock when he comes on. So me and my neighbours ends up shoveling 3 times in 24 hours. We're ripping about it, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, snow clearing should be as effective and as efficient as possible. I get why there has to be some repeat runs. Like, I live on a side street in the East End. Generally speaking, here's what happens on my street, is they do the one cut so that people can actually navigate the street. And then later in that day, after I've already shoveled, they come back and widen the road curb to curb. So that's at least twice I have to shovel to accommodate. So, I mean, I kind of understand the one cut to try to get as much of the city dealt with as quickly as possible, but it always does result in that second wing roll that I got to shovel.
Okay, another quick one. They got a brand new plow with the truck on the plow, brand new truck and plow, whatever. The other day went up, the sun was shining, and they had the blade down. Brand new truck, right at the box, right? It's a white vehicle, not the green one. Brand new white one with the blade down. Me and the neighbours were looking at it and said, yeah, they won't be done wearing the blade out. What? Brand new truck. You should see it. Anyway, I better go and leave you, but I got a couple of quick things to say to you. You know, I'll end up, you want to hear something, a couple of funny things or what?
One. I'll hear one. Pick your best one.
3 quick ones. Okay, number one, you know the song, you're going to hope you laugh at this. You know the song Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer?
I do.
Yeah, did you notice that the other reindeer were kind of leaving Buddy out? Like, it wasn't inclusive of that, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they used to laugh and call him names.
Yeah, they laughed and call him names, but it gets worse than that.
What's that? Fred? Did we press anything here? It looks like he's still on the line. Fred, are you there?
What?
Okay.
I'm
here. We felt like we got cut off. All right, 30 seconds. Give me your funniest one. Gotta go.
Okay. Because Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, they wouldn't let him play radio games. Frosty the Snowman went down to town and played with the other children, and then he started to melt away. That's another one, right?
That's after he
and
danced
what about
around.
This one? What?
That's after he danced around. Yes, okay, go.
Well, yeah, that's not too good. Okay, what about I saw Mommy kissing Santa Claus on the tree? That would be very traumatic for a child coming down the stairs and see Mom and Santa kissing underneath the tree. I'm surprised that all that stuff is still out there. I'm surprised. I love the carols, by the way. I do love them carols. Okay. But I'm surprised that they're still allowed to put them on the radio.
Nah. I mean, you never know. Maybe you get a better caliber of Christmas present if Mommy gives Santa a little peck.
That's right. Paddy, listen, when you're sitting around the tree and that, think of all of us that's out there. Boy, my parents are gone now with a sister dying. But Paddy, when you're sitting around and have a little swally, this and that, boy, you remember those Christmas carols and the city taxes and have a sip for me, boy. That's all I can say. I'm all by myself, and I said, my father passed away 5 years ago, and I said to someone, I'm putting up a tree this year, and I'm going to do it. I got it picked out. I'm going to do it. I'm putting it up. What do you think?
And I think it's an excellent idea. I appreciate your time this morning. Enjoy your tree. And when I sit down for a drink over the holidays, I absolutely will not be thinking about property taxes.
Exactly. Listen, love you, man. I really do.
Take good care, Fred.
I'm going to give you a fist bump now.
Okay, boom. Done.
Okay. Thanks,
buddy.
Paddy. I love you.
All the best.
Okay,
appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
All right, let's get a break in. When we come back, a lot of time left for you. Topic up to you. Don't go away.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Big Land FM radio network.
Welcome back. Let's go to line number 1. Good morning, Jim. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning. First of all, I'd like to say my glasses, not always full, my glasses are always overflowing. I never think about negative things, I always think about positive things. I'm in the process of reading Ray Guy, and 2 things stuck out in my mind. One thing, somebody asked Uncle Mose, he said, are you concerned about why you're going to die? No, he said, I'm not concerned about why I'm going to die. I'm concerned about where I'm going to die so I can avoid the place.
Yes, that's right. I know that one.
And now, another one.
Yeah.
He said in Newfoundland, he said, you don't know when spring ends and fall begins. He said the rabbits don't even know. They go round a half brown, half white.
So what Ray Guy were you reading?
That's it. So in the rear, I'll phone you because one thing is on my mind. I don't think we should have such a thing as political parties. I think people should get elected, and the people get elected, then they should decide themselves who's going to be leader, who's going to be the minister of this, who's going to be the minister of that. Give some thought to it. It makes so much sense.
Yeah, to me, I hear that all the time. Like, there was a party that was trying to form, I don't know, a few years ago, and they were talking about all being independents. You know, at some point...
Exactly. That to me would make so much sense. And you get more people, I think, running. The best candidates we possibly can have don't run. I know a person, to me, is very intelligent, very articulate, very thoughtful. He said, why? He said, well, I want to get in a glass cage. He said, I got everything I want. And he said, if I want anything else, he said, I could just go to the bank and get it on my tax-free savings account. That's why we don't get enough of good people running, and our structure should be changed. Anyway, that's my saying. You have a great Christmas and a happy and a great New Year.
I really appreciate it.
Take care.
Before I let you go, what Ray Guy were you just reading?
I'm reading 3 or 4 of them at the present.
Okay.
I'm generally reading 3 or 4 books at a time. Another one I just finished reading about lighthouses. I can tell you a little thing. Blanc up in southern Labrador. 2 archaeologists up there digging around.
Mm-hmm.
Tulk was one. And he figured this is a good spot to go seal hunting. And they went up in one corner and they dug it up. And they come across a body. And they figured, looking at the size of the body, they figured it was a 14-year-old boy. And around that were some family artifacts. And when they took up the ashes, he was cremated. They took up the ashes and they had it tested. They figured it was an 8,000-year-old person. Probably the oldest person in North America that was cremated. That's my last thought for today.
I appreciate your time. Thanks for calling, Jim.
Okay, then take care.
You too.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ray Guy, I mean, just the scathing pieces that he wrote, but was just unbelievably brilliant wit. I just finished reading the final columns. It's a collection of his work between 2003, 2013. Not that long ago I read Portrait of a Rebel, but boy, oh boy, Ray Guys don't come along very often. We could probably use one today. Now let's keep going. Line number 2. Grace, you're on the air.
Hi, good morning, Patty. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
Patty, I'm calling this morning to advise everyone in the Deer Lake area on the West Coast, the beautiful West Coast, that we have the Cran the Cruiser CMP event here today at our local food land. And we're asking people to come out and support our local food bank.
We need it now more than ever by the sounds of it, or by the look of it.
We do indeed, not just in our area, but everywhere, Patty. And any of these Cran the Cruiser events are always a huge success. And we look forward to people from the public, people that we serve, come out and have a chat with us. And if they're able to, support the local food bank.
So are we just cramming one cruiser?
Oh, no. We've got 3 cruisers here at present. We've got one full. We started at 9 o'clock this morning. We're here until about 5 p.m. today. And we'll probably make a few trips up to the food bank midday and be back again. It's always a huge event and super successful. People in our area are so generous. And, of course, the food bank is located in Deer Lake, but it's regional to our area. And it serves, many people.
Good luck with the event today. Thanks for doing it and appreciate your time.
Thanks so much. So everyone, come on down to Foodland. We're here until 5 today. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you,
Bye-bye.
Grace. Bye-bye. All right, let's keep rolling here. Let's go to line number 3. Sid, you're on the air.
Hey, Patty. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for taking my call. I'd like to give a bouquet, actually, to 2 people. And one of them being yourself, being both a diplomat and empathetic at the same time with your callers. It's amazing how well you do.
Thank you.
The second, you're welcome. The second bouquet is to the City of St. John's and the Universal Design Network of Newfoundland and Labrador for putting out the disability and accessibility checklist for universal design. And I've been asked by a few people where it is, and I just want to let everybody know it's available on the City of St. John's website under accessibility, and also in announcements you'll see the symbol for the checklist right inside that area.
I had a look at it yesterday. Sandra Cummings from the Universal Design Network was on the program a couple of times talking about this issue. And, you know, when you read through it, if you stand back and think, like if you're not in the disabled community, you probably don't think about a lot of these things. So, but at some point into the future, any one of us could be a member of the disabled community. So when I looked at it and having so many of these conversations with people like yourself and Nancy Reid and Sandra Cummings and others, it's all just very fundamental common sense. You know, the accommodations are not earth-shattering, they're just realistic.
Realistic. However, you know, it involves everybody. Someone that has children that needs that ability to get their carriage inside, as opposed to climbing up the 10 steps with the carriage and the baby. I mean, little things like that. Universal design gives us more adaptability in our environment for everybody, not just persons with disability, but aging in place. I mean, we could go on to the benefits with a long list. But yeah, it's very important for our future.
Absolutely right. And, you know, you can only hope that not only the city, but developers and individuals can, you know, kind of wrap their mind around where some of the gaps are in the system, where some of the hurdles are, and what we can all do about it, not only for building and designing, but just in our day-to-day lives. Because, again, if you don't have a mobility concern or some other disability, if it doesn't impact you, sometimes people don't think about it, but it is really, I think, helpful when we have these types of conversations, just to, you know, create a little bit more awareness out there about how 1/3 of the population and the barriers that they face.
Absolutely. You know, it's a new discussion. It's a new day for a lot of things inside the community, because people are beginning to understand that these things are needed. And, you know, even the provincial government has given some very positive movements towards this area as well. So, and we're waiting for the disability advocate to come into vogue, but we're looking at everything that's been said so far has said that, you know, we're going to see something in the new year on this. So we're all very positive. It's a wonderful time during this in the community for us, because we're seeing movement and we're seeing positivity, and that is a big thing.
Absolutely. And, you know, sometimes when we talk about government action here, because in the most recent provincial election and municipal elections, we had concerns being voiced from different corners of the province about accessibility to the polling booths. We know there's an accessibility issue at the courthouse. So it's, you know, we're in a better place, but there's a long road ahead of us, I would suggest.
Absolutely. And getting rid of the attitudinal barriers that we have faced in past is a big thing. And those are, thank God, beginning to melt away. You know, a nice Christmas gift for everybody.
Hear, hear. Appreciate the time, Sid. Thanks for doing it.
Thank you very much, Petty. Have a great day.
You too.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye. And, you know, in the basics of a universal design is just accommodations. And when we think about, you know, how we build, whether it be private residences or how government builds, you know, major infrastructure, accessibility, when you do it right through the lens of universal design, not only are you able to accommodate more people, also for potential to have to refit or retrofit into the future becomes far more expensive than if you adhere to it with initial design, engineering, and construction. So it's just a really smart way to build and to design. And again, same thing for businesses. If some 1/3 of the population in the province is recognized as having some disability, any barrier in front of them also keeps some of the population away from doing business with you. So it's not just how we build, it's also how we, you know, structure retail and all the rest of it. So anyway, Sid's always a great guest. Let's get a break in. When we come back, plenty of time left for you. Don't go away.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Bigland FM radio network.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. Good morning, George. You're on the air.
Good morning. I'm calling from Marystown, and just let you know that I'm I'm in a wheelchair because I had to have my leg amputated right up so far as it could go, and I'm calling because of the problems that I have trying to get from A to B. Now I have a home care worker, and Tuesday of this week I had to be in St. John's to meet with two specialists because I have another problem now. And you wouldn't believe how hard it is to try to get around, even if you have somebody helping you, because they don't seem to think about how hard it is, say, for people like me. Even if you push these things on the door, and the door is supposed to come open, a lot of them don't work. And on it goes. There's not enough work or care put into people, doing things for people that are so handicapped. And, sometimes there are good people that will help you. Other times they walk right by and they open the door by hand and go on in. And, if they would just hold the door, it would help. But there's so many things like that we ran into. We had to go in Monday and stay all night, and in the hotel even. It's so hard because things are not in place for people with a disability like this. I'm in a wheelchair all the time, and I wish that people would think about when they're building places or whatever, to think about people that are handicapped, seriously handicapped. And I just want, because you had somebody else had called in earlier and spoke about this earlier today on your show, and I said I just got to phone because it's very frustrating, and I just wish that they would think about people that are sitting in a wheelchair and it's snowing and it's blowing, and they get to the door and you can't open the door because those things don't work sometimes.
I understand where you're coming from. Just a bit of common pleasantries and common courtesies, they seem to be, for some people, a thing of the past. So your message is clear. When you recognize someone might need that just little bit of assistance, whether it be with a door to be opened or to put the shopping cart into the rack as opposed to just having them track all over the place. I mean, just very common little pleasantries can go an awful long way to make someone's day, just to make their day more manageable.
Oh, that you said it right. I'm not looking for miracles or anything. That does happen sometime where somebody will notice that you need a hand. And it's not like that they're giving up all their day. It only takes 2 minutes probably. And it makes my day then. I said, well, that person saw me struggling, and not only saw me, but he came over and helped me. And I thank that person very all the time. But I don't know, like I know we can't do everything that we'd like to do. But when we got to go to, like I had to go to see two specialists in St. John's and be there for 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning, and I had got no choice because the specialists that I need, are not out here in Dillon and Marystown.
It's an excellent message to pass along, George, and hopefully people have heard your thoughts on it here this morning, because it costs nothing to be kind, right? It doesn't cost anything. It might cost a couple of seconds of your day. That's about it.
Exactly. Anyway, you have a Merry Christmas, buddy.
Same to you, George. Appreciate your time. Stay in touch.
Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Let's keep going. That's proper message, right? Line number 1. Daryl, you're on the air.
Oh, hi, Paddy. How you doing today?
Okay, you?
Oh, I'm doing good. Thank you very much. I'm calling about today, Paddy. As we know, it's the 40th anniversary of the Arrow air crash, and I actually worked it. I was working with Allied Aviation, and I still remember that vividly, as right still fresh in my mind. And I never forget, because I remember I was doing a 4-12 shift before December 12th, and so me and another co-worker decided to do a flip. It was an overtime shift, you know, a bit extra money, Christmas time, so forth. And I lost the flip, and he ended up working. And then next morning, everything happened. And I'll never forget that day. We all went into work standing by and to be there if we or would need be or whatever. And it was, I remember the media that day from all over the world came from everywhere. Within, I think, it might have been 2 or 3 hours later, the U.S. military, the media. And I'll never forget that as long as I live. And then those years, he had what you call C-141s. Now they're replaced now by their C-17s. That was many years ago, and that was the first, like, when they start coming together. C-141s used to use Goose Bay all the time, and then from there on they start come through Gander more often and often afterwards. But I remember assisting C-141s, like helping them load up stuff that had to go back to the U.S. and it was a very devastating day, and you know, they didn't make it home for Christmas, and look at a lot of young kids now. Well, they're in their 40s now today, I guess, and a lot of them were only infants and didn't even get to know their mother and father. So it was a very sad day, but I still remember that fresh 40 years ago. And so, you know,
I bet you do. So 248 American soldiers on Arrow Air. And, you know, I was obviously much younger 40 years ago, but I remember the conversations on the heels of it and all the reports that were flooding in about people seeing explosions and fireballs and all the rest of it. When I think the official statement after the investigation was concluded is that we're talking about ice on the wings, right?
Well, Paddy, I won't go into depth about it, but I remember we had airplanes overnighted that night, and came and went, and none of them needed any de-icing.
Okay.
So I won't get into too much of it, but it's, you know, there's a lot of things were done and said and believed to be. I guess Gander, Newfoundland, December 12th, 1985, de-icing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of investigations, and a lot of people resigned from boards and stuff like that. But if you go and do the history of it all, it won't keep you too long off the trail from where it came from, whatever. It's a very interesting scenario. I'll put it to you that way. I don't want to elaborate too much on it, but sort of just got to be careful what you say. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
And but you just go and do the history of it all. You do search on it. It's very interesting stuff. But so they got ceremonies here today, I think, at Pentecostal Church here in Gander, 1 o'clock, and then down at the Memorial there off the highway at 3. But I don't know where 40 years went. I was only early 20s then at the time, right? And it's just like time just don't wait for nobody. It's just so fast how time's going, right?
That's a fact. And I mean, when the calendar flipped over to December, I'm thinking, man, oh man. And I bought milk yesterday. The expiration date is Christmas Day. And I'm thinking, man, this has been a very chaotic, hectic, and very quick or brisk year.
Right, yeah. And Paddy, one thing I will add to it, when it comes to de-icing, like I said, I got my know-how on what transpired, I guess, or whatever. But if the airplanes went and came that night, didn't need no de-icing. Planes overnight it went, didn't need no de-icing. Allied Aviation, we serviced aircraft. We worked that aircraft, and we seen anything that needed de-icing. I'll put it to you this way. We would have went to the pilot and said, look, we see precipitation, whatever. In our opinion, you need de-icing. Now, he has the final call, but usually they would listen to us or vice versa, say, okay, you think so, go ahead and do it. You know what I mean? And so I know I'll just leave it at that.
Fair ball. I appreciate the time, Daryl. Thanks for the call.
Yes, and thank you for having me on your show. And like I said, my thoughts and prayers still go out to all these families many years later. And I do wish everybody all the best. And Patty, and have a great finish to your day.
You too. All the best.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Yes, some of the why don't you talk about emails are kind of funny. And this one is, you didn't dare mention that a member of Parliament representing the CPC out in Markdale, Unionville, that they crossed the floor yesterday. Yeah, I did. I spoke about it in the preamble. I mean, it's kind of hard to avoid these big national stories, and they do have some impact. I mean, now the Liberals in a minority parliament are one seat short of a majority. So obviously this is big news. And they went on to say, I suppose you think there's going to be more defectors. How do I know? I mean, how could I possibly know? People will make all kinds of guesses. I watched a bit of the news coverage of it yesterday, and people opining that there would be more people crossing the floor. But the same people were telling me that there was going to be a bunch of Liberal MPs quit as well. So I don't know, but we did talk about it. And the one extraordinary thing for me is how it's being received as if it's just some earth-shattering, it never happens type of thing. It does. I mean, we've gone through it in the past here on the show. Since the establishment of the Westminster style of parliament in this country, it has happened hundreds of times. In the last 25 years, it's happened like 80 times. So this is not new stuff. I understand in full, especially if you live in that federal riding, if you voted for the person because they represented the party that you favour, of course you feel like you've been hard done by or betrayed. But the one emailer went on to say that this is treason. No, it's not. I mean, look, I get how people get upset about this stuff, and it goes back to the same sentiment that, you know, people keep writing me emails saying, look, I did not vote for majority government. No individual voter has the authority, the power, with the striking of one X, to vote in a minority or a majority government. It's just not really a thing. Should there be a by-election triggered if you cross the floor inside of 12 months after being elected, for instance? Maybe. I mean, that's a legitimate conversation. I completely understand that. Anyway, let's get our final break of the morning and the week in here. When we come back, still another segment left for you. Don't go away.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Big Land FM radio network.
Welcome back to the program. And again, another via email. So someone just sent me a screenshot, and it's a bit of an interesting cell phone. So it looks like a screenshot from Twitter. And it says, this is Michael Ma. Michael Ma is the gentleman who just crossed the floor to join the Liberal caucus. This is Michael Ma's most notable role in Parliament. Looks like China got another one. So it goes on to say that parliamentary associations and interparliamentary groups, executive committees, Michael Ma was the vice chair of the Canada-China Legislative Association. Look, we know, and I tried to talk about it a lot, you know, leading into the public inquiry led by Justice Marie Hogue about foreign interference. It's a thing. It absolutely is. But this is sort of a strange one, and I know the emailers, the point they're trying to make here, but if you think about it just one step further, the basic insinuation here is if you think this is a Chinese agent sleeper in Michael Ma, well, are you just admitting that there was a Chinese sleeper agent as member of the Conservative Party for 8 months? So, look, I think we probably ignore some of the foreign interference stories far too often. And there's the notable bad actors out there. And it grabbed all the headlines for the longest while. We had a public inquiry on it, and the dissemination of the information that regular Canadians without security clearances can get, and how the information is shared at the federal government level, including with opposition parties. So, yeah, I'm not so sure why that conversation just kind of went away, even though we just came through a year, and in this province, we had 3 elections. There was actually plenty of warnings on provincial fronts on that up front as well, right? Because Elections Canada and federal government oversight and the sharing of intelligence at the federal level is vastly different than it is at the provincial level. Now, I'm not suggesting that the Chinese or the Russians or the Iranians or whoever have any interest in meddling with Newfoundland and Labrador elections. But in provinces where the stakes are a little bit higher and the population base is a little bit bigger, Ontario, Alberta, I mean, they had their own provincial worries there because they do not have access to that level of intelligence unless when the feds uncover something with intelligence sharing amongst the Five Eyes or otherwise, and they bring it to provincial levels. And the guardrails that the federal government has is vastly different than what provincial governments have. On that front, So apparently this happened Wednesday, but the country wasn't informed about it until late yesterday, is that a non-commissioned member of the Canadian Military Intelligence Branch has now been charged with passing classified information to a foreign entity. Which one? We don't know. And that comes from the Department of National Defence. So the fellow's name is Master Warrant Officer Matthew Robar. The investigation has been ongoing for quite a while. The charges, there are 8 of them, charges under the National Defence Act. So he's accused of, they say, communicating special operational information, breach of trust. Extremely serious charges. And remember back in 2012 when there was a member of the Navy was charged, but they held it as a civil trial, or pardon me, in criminal court, as opposed to a military trial, which is the pathway to court-martial. And that does keep a lot of the information out of the public scrutiny, which I'm not sure which is the most appropriate, but someone charged with basically espionage. Let's go to line 1. Caller, you're on the air. Good morning. Line number 1. Are you there, line number 1? I can hear you breathing. I know you're there.
Is that me?
That would be you.
Oh, I thought it was going to be long. Betty, we're on a bit of a financial precipice, sinkhole. I'm going to ask you, what do you think is our most pressing problem that we have financially today,
I'm not really sure how to approach that question, but, I mean, if we're talking...
Excuse me, what I'm sort of trying to do is I want to know what you think is our most pressing, demanding problem and what we should do about it,
Well, it depends on who you are, where you are, what your lot in life is. Like, if for some people...
we're in a financial sinkhole. There's red lights alarms going on everywhere, and there's remedies to be taken, but there's no sign of them being taken, you know?
Okay, well, let me try this one on you. So one of the most pressing financial concerns here is that we spend over $1 billion a year to service our debt. Not chip away at the debt, but to service the debt.
Yeah.
That's one. What's your opinion?
Well, it's just a matter of rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. When we're going down a hole fast, and there's remedies there. I'm talking about our financial situation and the budget coming up. There's remedies there that were suggested by Green, and there's no, tackling the problem. There seems to be no one wants to do it. There's no one accountable for it. I mean, if we're going to keep on this path, which the present regime seems to want to do, well, it's incumbent on them to explain why they're not taking remedies to fix the situation that's going to end up badly, one way or the other. This can't go on. It will stop.
Yeah, it's unsustainable. I agree with you. And I was always surprised, like, even when the Liberals were in power and we were told that the PERT report, the Premier's Economic Recovery Team, Moya Green and group, that would be the economic roadmap. Yet virtually nothing that was suggested or recommended in the report has been dealt with, whether it be selling off the NLC or selling oil equity stakes or motor vehicle or just name one, Bull Arm. Now, Bull Arm's been dealt with. I should correct myself because there's a new lease out there. But yeah, you're right. It's currently unsustainable. I don't think there's an argument against that.
And that brings up the argument of accountability. Who is accountable for why we're not doing something about it?
Another excellent question. So we only get select opportunities to hold anyone to account, and that needn't be the way. So once every 4 years is not frequently enough for accountability to rear its head.
Well, I think there is. I mean, we could, if we didn't have a public that was half asleep and as passive as they are, everyone would be demanding this because it affects them. This will end badly, as it ended in 1933, when we had Commissioner of Government come in, take over the operation, and the public service salaries of teachers were cut in half. They didn't have an option. This had to be done, and that's on our way now. We just put our head in the sand, and we don't want to face that reality. And as a matter of fact, we are taking all the debts. We have $50 billion debt now, plus the Muskrat albatross, and we're simply passing it on to our children that they weren't responsible for and won't benefit from, and we think that's perfectly acceptable. Well, it's not acceptable to me. I think it's immoral.
It's not acceptable to me either, to be honest. Simply because it's 11:59 and 30 plus seconds. You've had the final word, but I appreciate making time for the show, and have a nice weekend.
Thank you, Paddy.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. All right, good show today. Good shows all week. Big thanks to all hands. We will indeed pick up this conversation again on Monday morning, right here on VOCM and Big Land FM's Open Line. On behalf of the producers Greg Smith, Beth Fagan, I'm your host, Paddy Daly. Have yourself a safe, fun, happy weekend. Talk Monday. Bye-bye.